Hey, so in this video, we're going to cover what is probably my favorite sales letter ever. It's called The Rapid and Frightening Rise of Soviet America. This was written by someone over at Agora. If you're not familiar with who they are a financial publishing company. I think they've done over billions of dollars marketing to conservative 65-year-olds, especially politically, and selling investment and trading advice. And if you're not sure who I am, my name is Ed Ray, and I'm a copywriter, and I've made my clients over $30 million in sales over the last few years. I've written and consulted for everything from $60,000 a year coaching programs to Christian Bible summaries to green supplements, and everything in between. And I write emails, ads, social media posts, sales pages, etc. for my clients. So we're going to dive right in and see why this is one of my favorites. The first thing is it is so provocative. The rapid and frightening rise of Soviet America. So I love this idea and this angle, because it really speaks to the heart of where these guys are at. These are 65-year-olds. They love Trump. They are, super afraid of Russia and China. They don't like communist countries. And it's super gripping. It's super simple, and straight to the point. And they've got, all the faces of the bad guys. Again, this is not political. This is just marketing. So don't be offended. Everyone in red here, because red is the, color of the Soviets and communism. The disturbing story, right? Not just any story, disturbing, of how a once small group of radicals, right? Because that's we're going to throw rocks at the enemy, tricked America into advancing their agenda. It's a conspiracy. People love juicy gossip. This is like tabloids for 65-year-old conservatives. Now, the American Soviets are about to trigger a chain of events. So this is a prediction that will destroy the core of what it means to be American. And Americans want to protect their identity, their nationality. They're very, very prideful of that. According to New York Times bestselling author Doug Casey, right? So we're going to add some, because these are some big claims that we're adding in here. We're calling people Soviet Americans. We're, saying they have an agenda. They're going to trigger a chain of events and destroy what it means to be American. And then New York Times best-selling author, right? So adds some credibility and kind of backs up the point just because, this person probably knows what they're talking about. Everything you worked hard for, including your freedom, is at stake. And now we're about to read my favorite line of the entire sales page, which is, "Dear reader, a major coup is about to unfold on U.S. soil." Who is not going to stop and read that? Right? Who's not going to stop and read that? I love that. Such a visceral line that you just can't look away from. You have to know what this coup is, what's happening, and almost nothing can stop it. Deeply connected and powerful cartels within Washington, New York, and Silicon Valley. So we're inciting the conspiracy, right? Deeply connected, powerful cartels. Like they have the association of cartels with Mexican, right? Like Mexico, and the contrast of that being in their own country is it's big deal for them. Who have major influence on financial and political policies, have finally crafted a foolproof conspiracy to sabotage Donald Trump's presidency and replace it with a new type of socialist state. And so this is the big problem, the big prediction, right? So when you're writing a sales page, one of the most powerful angles is called the prediction, right? So if you're doing like a sales page in BizOp, right? If you do one on the rise of AI and you say, hey, I foresee that, white collar jobs will be, destroyed in the next 3 to 5 years. And then you have a big compelling case in a news article style letter, I think they could do quite well, right? So any kind of prediction, whether it's like that, maybe obesity will get worse if you're selling, weight loss. So some kind of big grandiose prediction. That's super, super huge. It works really, really well. And replace it with a new type of socialist state. Again, big bold prediction. So we're going to get more clear on what the prediction is. where the incoming government will have full control of everything, including money and assets, where immigrants will rush into the country at will to take what you've worked hard for. This audience hates immigrants, so this is well done, right? Where food and medication will be controlled by the state and rationed among citizens and immigrants alike. It will be a new kind of America with a new vision and new policies. So a lot of the psychological tendencies of this market is to protect what they have. Like they're very big on the Mayberry, I think is what it's called, idea of like knowing your neighbor and like very, deeply rooted American values and tradition, right? And so they're basically saying that everything that you knew and grew up in is going to be wiped away. And first on the agenda to establish the new socialist America is to take Trump out. Now, this is really funny because at the time of recording this, it is September 24th, 2024, and Trump got, attempted assassination, I think twice now. And I think this was published like 2015, 2016, give or take, maybe 2017, but yeah, like almost a decade ago. So for the first time in our history, we're about to witness the most devious plot against our country and a sitting U.S. president. Why? It's no secret. The establishment hates Donald Trump and everything he stands for. Okay, so we've just called out the really, really big prediction that we have, right? They're going to make this new America, new America with different values, right? And then here's the specifics of that. And then the first step in that agenda is to take Trump out, right? And again, for these people, they idolize Trump just like, basketball players idolized Kobe Bryant and, LeBron James and those guys, right? So big deal. So he's like the hero of the story, right? They did everything possible to stop Trump from taking office. None of it worked. Right now, he's got loads of enemies in Washington, and unfortunately, even within his own cabinet, Trump is constantly fighting the media, established Democrats, Republicans, top intelligence personnel. He's also fighting China's influence, the Iranians, the Russians, you name it. To make it worse, Trump is unconventional. That's how he gets things done. So they're really framing him as the underdog, right? So to make it worse, Trump is unconventional. He's anti-big government, anti-populist. He's a populist. He's a nationalist. He takes BS from no one. He's not a part of Washington Circle. And he stands in the way of the elite establishment, a connected group of powerful individuals who control the decisions of elected officials, powerful men and women with the attitude of the old Soviet communists. And so the author here, or the copywriter, is now tying people who are against Trump, right? Because he's the hero of the story. He's going to save us. This is the whole point of this sales letter. He's drawing comparisons to like Trump's opposition being and having Soviet attitudes, right? They dislike Trump and his policies, especially since he reversed several of Obama's. They're pissed and they've had enough, and they're ready to take back their turf from Donald Trump, the outsider, by any means necessary. So we're really just juicing up the story here. And here we go. The first presidential coup on U.S. soil. So this is just a shocking headline here, just to grab attention, right? That explains why these mysterious and powerful bureaucrats, keyword bureaucrats, cooked up the most outrageous government takeover on U.S. soil. So now we're expanding more on this prediction. But it won't be the kind of coup you're used to seeing in some third world country. Not a single bullet will be fired, not a single gun will go off, and no, the president will not get arrested. Invoking the 25th Amendment or impeachment will not be the weapon of choice to remove President Trump from office either. By the way, I'm Canadian. I don't know if he got impeached. I think there was talks about it. But what's interesting about this is when you hear coup, you think about a military coup, which is where people, military forces are so strong they take over the government. So this is making it more intriguing. Wait, there's no bullets, no guns, and no arrests? Well, then how are they going to, make a coup happen? That's way too civil and timid, especially for a group of this kind. So they're throwing more rocks at it. But rather, it's a coup that uses a much more powerful and destructive weapon, one that will affect every American in ways unimaginable. And so you notice how they're teasing this weapon. They're teasing this this coup and how it's going to work, but they're not saying what it is. So this is really enticing the reader to read through, right? Because we're making all these big claims that are big enough and believable enough, especially to this audience, that makes them want to keep reading. And to the best of my knowledge, no one is talking about this specific plot or even knows it's about to unfold. So that one really handles the objection of like, well, why haven't I heard about this before, right? That's a big one. But once Trump is out, the incoming socialist government will emerge as the new messiah with a new hope and new deals for the American people. What does that say? They'll peddle free healthcare for all. It's already drafted on paper. So that quotation there, or sorry, the parentheses, it's already drafted on paper. It's so powerful because it shows that, hey, this is already in motion. This is happening sooner than you think, right? Cancel all student loan debt and implement free college tuition. A blueprint is already archived in Washington. That's also funny because I think that they're actually kind of doing that. Initiate universal basic income for lazy Americans and immigrants, which is already in motion in Chicago, California. Again, I actually think that these things are starting to happen, which is pretty funny. This is kind of accurate. And also, look at the word lazy Americans and immigrants. So there's two things that this crowd hates: Americans, that's lazy Americans, and immigrants. They're like, oh, because like the older generation's like, oh, when I was your age, we would walk 25 miles to school uphill, and then we in the snow, and then we would walk uphill on the way back, right? So they're very prideful of how hardworking they are, and they hate lazy people, quote unquote, taking advantage of that. They will take from seniors and boomers to give to millennials who live in their parents' basements. So this is also one of their big fears, right? Part of the plan to fund all this spending could include cutting Social Security and Medicare. So these are, because again, 65 plus boomers and seniors, they care about these things a lot because that's how they're getting their money. And so they're basically saying, yeah, your funding is getting taken away. To further fund their socialist agenda, a 70% wealth tax is proposed by junior Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a card-carrying member of the group I call these American Soviets. Few socialists and 2020 presidential candidates, Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, both support it. Just imagine giving back the vast majority of your income every year just because you were successful. So adding that line there of giving back the vast majority of your income every year because you were successful, this group really hates taxes. I mean, who doesn't, right? But they're really like twisting the knife and like, yeah, imagine just because you're successful, now you have to give to everyone else who like is lazy or an immigrant, right? They'll cut military spending and make America vulnerable to enemy nations like North Korea and Iran. Again, these guys love the military. They'll completely abolish immigration and customs enforcement and leave our borders as wide open as a highway so anyone could flock in, even enemies too. So there's a visual there of wide open as a highway. And like all these points here are, honestly, these are tapping into their secret fears and things that they would like talk to their friends about in private and like, be racist about, honestly. It's like all these points here, they've done really good research and they really know their market. Because these are all the things that people would complain about to their friends behind closed doors, but wouldn't, talk about maybe publicly. So it's a really, really good point when you're writing your sales copy to know the private conversations people are having that they will never admit online or, publicly. But perhaps what's even more dangerous, they will deceive and blindside Americans at the same time with the fake profit of socialism. And so now they're saying, hey, they're going to pretend that socialism is the solution to your problems, right? So they're really making that clear who and what the enemy is, which is socialism here. And they will use these handouts to bribe millennial and immigrant voters and hold on to power beyond 2020. So again, they are definitely throwing the rocks at millennials. The boomers seem to hate the millennials. And then we're going to add some proof to back that up of communist countries, just like Castro did in Cuba in 1959, Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela in 92, and then the Soviets did in 1917. Which is funny because obviously there weren't really millennials back then, but Copy's copy. But like every socialist state, there will be serious repercussions. Expect to see widespread poverty and lawlessness and a bankrupt government that will seize every penny from hardworking Americans, all in the name of spreading wealth. So again, they're taking their deepest, darkest fear, which is, for their country that they love to become one of the, communist countries. Right? It's my sincere hope this will not come to pass. It's through solid work ethics and patriotic values that America became the great nation that it is. But sorry to say, the economic progress we know over the last 2 centuries is now all in vain. It will be wiped out within months by a socialist uprising. Right? Again, it's tapping into their biggest fears. I can assure you, I'm not trying to scare you. Only it's my duty to keep you informed so you know how to protect yourself, your loved ones, and everything you worked hard for. So a big theme of this sales letter is protecting yourself. Protection. Tradition, right? Because these older people, they're not looking to necessarily grow their wealth or grow, what they have. They're trying to protect what they do have. And so this is framing the socialist agenda as trying to take that away. In other words, this impending catastrophe doesn't have to catch you by surprise, as it could for thousands of Americans. How we uncovered a shocking coup against a sitting U.S. president. So the thing with these headlines, with these, they're called crossheads, is they're going to be calling out some of the really, really big questions, right, on people's minds. So it's like, okay, well, this new socialist state, like what are they going to do? Oh, they're going to take Trump out. Okay, well, they take Trump out. Well, okay, but how is it going to work? Okay, well, this, crosshead explains that. And then, well, how did you find out about this? And so now we're getting into it here, right? I'm Nick Giambruno, Chief Analyst at Casey Research and Doug Casey's right-hand man. Right, so we're going to get into the intro of who the author or the speaker here is, right? Legendary economist, investor, multimillionaire, best-selling author, dozens of political financial connections with some of those powerful people on every continent. He's met with 12 presidents, governors of central banks, and intelligence operatives, and boasts a cadre, actually don't know what that word means, of resource and business insiders on speed dial. He's even met with notorious scoundrels like Fidel Castro and the governor of Zimbabwe's central bank. So that is some crazy evidence and proof that this guy knows what he's talking about, because he's met Fidel Castro. Just this picture alone on the right here goes so hard. Like, just overwhelming amounts of proof. Our firm, Casey Research, founded by Doug Casey, is one of the largest financial research firms in America. And while our research firm has a track record of correctly forecasting major financial and political catastrophes based on research and hard intelligence, we've never been more confident of any stock market, political, or economic forecast than the one we're making today. So they're just really, really backing up this claim that they have about the, Soviet America. And that's saying something because Doug was emphatic about a number of major predictions, most of which have come true. So he's going to show his track record for predictions, right? I mentioned earlier that the prediction is one of the strongest sales letter angles. And so if you can prove that your previous predictions were correct, then people are going to take you more seriously. So Doug predicted the savings and loan collapse, the fall of the Soviet Union, the dot-com crash, and 9/11 2 months before it happened. Doug even predicted which direction gold would move in during that period. Anyone who followed Doug's prediction could have pocketed a 407% profit. Right? So, as I mentioned, this is for a investment newsletter. And so we're already teasing some of the gains people are making, right? Doug warned, very subtly, Doug warned readers of a coming credit and housing bubble in October 2006, long before the 2008 meltdown. And during that meltdown, 2008, Doug and his team made several recommendations that would later soar 405%, 234%, and 102%. So again, this is a selling stocks and investments. And then we got testimonials on the side talking about how good, Doug Casey is. Doug also forecasted Brexit long before it came to a vote, and he's long written about the socialist direction of the European Union. Now he sees the same beast. Socialism is about to explode here in the U.S. What I'll reveal today is the most confident Doug Casey has ever been on the forecast. And Doug has rarely been wrong about something this big. Look, Doug actually predicted Trump would win the presidency even before he became the Republican candidate. And then there's a quote here. I think unless Trump's actually defrauded, he's going to be the Republican candidate and he's going to win. Doug Casey, April 21st, 2016. But I hate to tell you this. Just as Doug predicted the rise of Donald Trump, Doug is now forecasting the fall, the secret weapon to take Trump out. So, I mean, we are, 5 pages in on 31. We're going on 20 minutes. So I'm going to speed this up and take the key points for you. So it's so malicious, dangerous, and historic. I sincerely wish we were wrong about this devious plot against the sitting U.S. president, but this powerful, shadowy group has an ultimate weapon that no one will see coming. Part of that secret weapon is the stock market. In short, our research points to a doomsday conspiracy by this mysterious group. So now that one loop has been closed, which is what the ultimate weapon is, it's, part of it is the stock market. We need to open another loop to get people to keep reading. So this is called stacking open loops. And an open loop is like a cliffhanger. So this question is, who is this mysterious group, right? So they've brought this in. To crash the U.S. stock market and the American economy down to ground zero before the end of 2020. So that didn't happen. Well, actually, COVID happened. So that's a thing. Then pin the blame on President Trump to sabotage his presidency re-election. The market drops we saw last October and December when the Dow shed an average 500 points were just the warning sign. Based on our intelligence, you can expect to see further drops in the Dow through 2020 and a major crash thereafter. Once the market collapses, it will be blamed squarely on Trump by the aggressive opposing media, which actually did happen. The socialist state will win the souls of Americans and establish their policies. The average American will be looking to the government for a bailout or handout. Again, COVID stims. That's hilarious. This is actually kind of accurate. Much of which is already in the works, thanks to the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives. Once Trump is out, a major retirement crisis will emerge as well. But socialist policies come with a huge price, just as Venezuela. America will bleed to death with debt and chaos. Our way of life, our freedom and financial well-being will vanish before our eyes. So they're really, really playing up the visceral, visual emotions that these guys are just super afraid of happening. Soon, there'll be nothing left for our grandchildren and children to live on. Or worse, there'll be a violent free-for-all with corrupt leaders ready to gun down citizens looking for food, just like in Venezuela. Okay, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit here. So now we're going to get into the bullets, so the fascinations. So this is what's going to help people read through the rest of the sales letter, because this is just the introduction we're still in. Let's see. To make sense of it all, I'll expose what's been happening since Trump won the presidency. You'll get details on the rogue bureaucrats who hold major influence over policy and politicians, and who have allies on both sides of the political aisle, within the intelligence community, military, industry, and the media. Sit tight, I'll name names and take you inside their conspiracy to topple a sitting president. You'll see how a stock market collapse is virtually locked in, and what mechanism they'll use to trigger sudden drops in the Dow as we saw last December, and how they'll set up a socialist agenda as America's New Deal. And best of all, I'll show you what I'm personally doing to protect myself, my family, and even grow my wealth quietly. So, the author just future paced all the stuff that they're going to cover in this letter. And then once they cover it, right, the end here it says, I'll show you how I'm protecting myself, my family, and even grow my wealth. Which is, again, the point of this. I can't promise you'll emerge from this crisis unharmed, but I can guarantee you'll be better off than those who don't follow the simple steps. And then here's here's what happens if you don't listen to me right now, basically. Once the market crashes, socialism is implemented. A whole new wave of Americans in their 50s and 60s will be unable to retire. Retirement accounts and 401k plans will be wiped out and seized. Social Security and Medicare payouts will be halved. The value of your home will be slashed too. Foods like milk, butter, eggs, sugar, and medications will be rationed and controlled by operatives of the incoming socialist government. Of course, the question is, can a stock market crash really take down President Trump and what are the implications for folks nearing retirement? At first, I had doubts, and so this is actually really helpful to say that this, the author has doubts, because it's like, entering the mind of the reader. It's like, yeah, is that really true? Until Doug and I began putting together the pieces of our research like a giant puzzle. And the plan to take out President Trump through a stock market crash is as foolproof as anything I've seen. And respected economist and investor Peter Schiff agrees with Doug's forecast. Some more credibility and proof here. What we're about to experience will be a bigger bust than what we had in 2008. And unfortunately, Trump is going to be blamed for that as well of all the Republicans. Okay, so we're going to, again, so now we're getting into the meat of the sales letter. We finished the intro, now we're in the meat, okay? So I'm going to do my best to run through this because you're already 25 minutes. I want to, make this as snappy as possible. If it goes to however long, fine, but I'll do my best. History has proven that no political party or president regained power after a market crash. And then, so that's our, so right there, so we are tying the belief of the stock market crash is what will boot Trump out of office. Okay, that's their coup tool, right? And then we're looking at historical data. Jimmy Carter won the presidency, and then there was a crash, and then he lost the re-election, and then with Bush, Dow dropped 18%, and then he lost. And then Clinton's second term, dot-com bubble, exploded. 5 trillion stocks were lost. And then, let's see. And then, George Bush came back. Or sorry, well, I guess the son of, I don't know, American politics, Tim Canadian. So basically they're just showing all the proof of every time that there was a stock market crash. That president who was in power during that time didn't make it through, right? They got swapped out. And then it keeps going with John McCain. And then now Barack Obama. And so Trump himself knows how closely presidential fortunes are tied to the stock market. And then, he knows the most alarming example of that is President Herbert Hoover. And then apparently, Trump and Hoover are both successful businessmen. And then after Hoover took office in the roaring 20s, the bubble began to pop. Banks ran low on cash. There's a bank run, basically. And then the stock market crashed. The Great Depression came in. And then, key line here, Americans who saved their entire lives for retirement discovered they had no money left. So again, this is showing the patterns of history to now, and this is probably freaking the fuck out of the audience. So Hoover didn't cause the Great Depression. He took the fall for it. Franklin Roosevelt became president as the new messiah. He had an aggressive socialist agenda that led the Democrats to a stunning 4-year presidential victories, a 12-year reign. And so now what they're doing is they're drawing the parallel of like, hey, it wasn't this guy's fault. It wasn't Hoover's fault for the crash. And then, he lost to Roosevelt. And remember earlier they mentioned that the new Soviet regime will be the new messiah. Okay. And so they're using the same terminology here again. And then, they said Roosevelt was the new messiah. He had an aggressive agenda and then a 12-year reign. So when history is rewritten, there are 2 presidents who will be remembered for the worst reigns due to stock market crashes and recessions. And so Herbert Hoover, the scapegoat of the 1929 Great Depression, and then Donald Trump, the victim of the plotted 2020 stock market crash and recession. So they're literally drawing parallels saying, hey, this guy wasn't at fault for the crash. He was set up. and then he didn't get reelected, right? So, and then that's gonna happen to Trump too, right? That's what they're saying. Okay, so they're saying that the Great Depression was not orchestrated, but Trump's will be the first planned one. And then we've got like super credible, people agreeing, saying Senator Lindsey Graham is on record saying he believes a bureaucratic coup led by enemies of Trump is taking place. Former Trump advisor is basically also, backing this all up. And then they're restating that the American Soviets have the attitude of old Soviet mafias, right? And then they're talking about the deep state or the shadow government. Let's see here. Let's do it down the most. Okay, so let's get down to the meat of this planned coup, plus details of this next stock market crash and the retirement crisis that will follow, including what you can do to protect yourself. White House takeover. And then now they're talking about the deep state and how the deep state is going to be. So what I really want to explain here is the reason why I'm not like reading it word for word at this point is because it's not so much about the words right now. It's about the ideas. And so if you think about the logical conclusion of this, sales page, which is framed as a newsletter article, there's this big claim of Soviet America, and then, they're going to take out President Trump, in a coup, and then, here's all the research that I've done in the past that shows my predictions are correct. And then after that, it shows, hey, actually there was a guy before who had been the scapegoat accidentally, for the Great Depression. And then, he lost, for 3 years in a row. And then, 12 years was, what's his name? Roosevelt, right? And now we're drawing parallels. Okay. And so now people are believing, oh man, like Trump's going to take the blame for this. And so remember earlier I said we had an open loop of who is this secret, mysterious, conspiracy group that's planning on taking out Trump. And so now we're talking about who it is, which is the deep state. So this is why I'm skimming over the words, because with sales letters, it's not so important what words are used, but the ideas that are being conveyed. And so you want a very logical sequence and order that gets people to buy into what you're saying, which is why there's tons of credibility here. For example, literally here, the deep state is a state within a state that's hiding in plain sight, made up of top personnel, Silicon Valley, media, regulatory agencies, bankers, presidents, professors, universities, congressmen, senators, NSA, military, and intelligence operatives, and then tons of other like big names and people like that, right? Other sources, and then just literally just showing how many people are explaining. How many people are they're saying are part of this deep state, right? Like George Soros and H.R. McMaster. I'm not sure who that is, right? So then there's a quote from George Soros, which is, my personal goal in the U.S. is to help reestablish a functioning two-party system, and that that Trump will disappear in 2020, calling his presidency a danger to the world. And then here we go into the deep state, which is like, who is George Soros? What's his role? And is he the godfather of the U.S., right? And then now they're just going into explaining. Well, first of all, they open these questions and then they don't answer them. So again, literally they're opening the loop and then they're closing it and then they're opening another one. So it's like, who's George Soros? But then it doesn't really answer that directly. So you see all the anti-Trump operatives are held together by power, money, propaganda, and their secret agenda to implement anti-American and socialist policies. And by the way, this letter is really, really well written because it shows, it just throws the rocks at the enemy so hard here, right? And then all these Democrats are, marked to carry out the policies of the deep state. So the question is, what will trigger this market crash? How will it happen and when? And then, okay, cool. So it's also so funny. Secret weapon, take down Donald Trump. And then, look at the red circles at the various peaks. Every time a red circle appears, a precipitous drop and market crash follows. Right? So, and again, they're making Trump the hero. So they're saying, while Trump seems like a fearless warrior who's energetic and tough, these red circles represent his worst nightmare. And so for your sales letters, you want to have, your own version of a hero, whether that's the reader or that's some kind of like product or offer or like the guru that people can get behind. Let's see here. Okay, as you may have guessed, these red circles are initiated by powerful members of an established group that Trump says is his biggest threat. I'm referring to the most powerful bankers in America and possibly the world, the Federal Reserve. In short, based on our research, basically the deep state's going to use the Federal Reserve to take down Trump. And so now they're explaining the backstory of the Federal Reserve, right? It's not part of the U.S. government. They're dependent. And they're saying that it's a smokescreen to throw you off from knowing the real goal, which is to manipulate the American economy and stock market at will. The Fed is nothing more than 12 mere mortals playing God with an economy of 326 million Americans. And if they take the actions I expect they will, hardworking middle-class Americans will become poor when the market crashes and Trump is out. How? Through this orchestrated financial coup I've been telling you about. So now they kind of want a bit of a tangent about what the Fed is and then George Soros, but now they're tying it back to the coup. Right? Okay, so now we're understanding. So we're going to be using they're going to be using the Fed to instigate this stock market crash that will get Trump out of office. Are you starting to see how this is like tying together? So the weapon, as I've said right here, is interest rates. And then we got a quote from Forbes. I love using like really, really credible sources. That's like, headlines like these. I have those in some of my old sales letters. All modern rate hikes cycles have resulted in a recession, financial, or banking crisis, from Forbes, right? So all of these are, interest rate hikes. And then they're just explaining like how the Fed can derail the economy using interest rates. So when interest rates are low, borrowing money gets easier. It's cheaper to buy a house, car, take a loan. Consumers have more money to spend. Businesses expand. Profits rise. The economy is happy. So I like that, where it's like the economy is happy, because it's very like simple, very simple. But the opposite is dangerous. When the Fed raises interest rates, your mortgage becomes more expensive, pay more for your car loan. Consumers have less money to buy bread, milk, eggs, electronics, go out to dinner. Businesses can't expand. Profits fall. Stock prices tank and the economy comes to a screeching halt. So just there, they're showing you like very visually the difference of low and high interest rate. Okay, so when interest rates are low, borrowing money gets easier, okay? But then here it says, when the Fed raises interest rates, your mortgage becomes more expensive. You have to pay more for your car loan. So, and then here it says, it's cheaper to buy a house, a car, or take a loan. Consumers have more money to spend too, right? So this is saying like you have more money, but then when the interest rates go up, right, you have less money to buy bread, milk, eggs, electronics, go out to dinner. And then even down here it says, when the interest rates are low, businesses expand, profits rise, the economy is happy. And then the opposite, right? Businesses can't expand, profits fall. The stock prices tank, and the economy comes to a screeching halt. So literally, it's very simple. It's just taking businesses expand to businesses can't expand. Profits rise to profits fall. But it's very, very visceral and very, very black and white. And then there's a quote here from Trump saying if the interest rate goes up 2, 3, 4 points, we don't have a country, right? So remember how everyone said the economy looked good under President Obama? Well, Obama had help from the Fed. Throughout Obama's 2 terms, the Fed kept interest rates super low at near 0%. But look at what happened once Trump won the presidency, okay? So basically, as soon as Trump won, they just started super crazy raising the interest rates, right? And then there's a line here, is the Fed sabotaging Trump? I love this sales letter, it's so fun. So now they're pointing the finger at them, right? At the Fed for raising interest rates. The ghost of 2008 recession is back to haunt Americans. So now they're just talking about here. Let's see. So basically they're saying like there's a really, really bad December. It was the worst December for the market since the Great Depression. And then, all the proof to back that up between, specific like 2.3 trillion vanished, 155 billion in 401k and RI savings evaporated. Clients at big financial centers were calling them to get out of the market. White House was in turmoil. Trump's secretary called the biggest banks to see if they had no cash on hand. And then, if the Federal Reserve takes interest rate to 3% over the next few months, the stock market could lose more than 50% of its value. The Trump administration will over $1 trillion on interest in the country's $21 trillion debt, which will cause serious strains in the economy and take it to recession mode. So all this to say is, they're now just tying this back to, and the folks who will feel it the most, retirees. In fact, Americans 50 years and over won't have peace of mind, and here's why. So the story is tied up around Trump and the Fed and rising interest rates. But now they're bringing it back to the reader, which is like, hey, well, this is actually what this has to do with you as the consumer, right? And so this is, I imagine, where we're going to start to get closer to the pitch. Baby boomers and seniors won't be able to retire when everything crashes. So by the way, so we've already made the point. So we made the point of the coup being like, hey, so crashes happen. So every time a crash happens, the president doesn't, get reelected. Okay. And then, so that's one key point. And then the next key point is, as soon as Trump got elected, the Fed increased interest rates and has continued to do so. Okay. So those two things in mind, right? Assuming that the Fed keeps raising the interest rates, because it literally said up here that if the interest rate goes to over 3% over the next few months, the stock market could lose about half of its valuation. Okay? So it's very, very clear and logical. There's a coup, and it's caused by the stock market, and it's caused by the deep state, who are using the Fed, and when the Fed increases the interest rates, there's always a stock crash afterwards. And so that's what's going to make sure Trump never gets reelected. So we've essentially completely completed the thought about the Soviet America, right? And so now we've opened up the new loop of why Americans 15 over won't have peace of mind, right? So we've closed majority of these loops, right? So we're going to get into what this has to do with the reader, who's the 50 plus year old conservative who wants to have money. Let's see. So boomers are expecting to claim their Social Security and Medicare over the next few years after decades of contributions. I'm sure you've paid into this system since your first job as a teenager. You deserve to get your money back. So just right there, where we are showing the sunk cost bias, which is like, hey, you've put your whole life into this, Medicare and Social Security, and you need to be getting your money back. But there's one big problem that no one has ever mentioned to you. And then now they're talking about in 2008, the country's debt consumed 65% of the yearly income, and then 35% was reserved for Social Security and medical payouts, or Medicare payouts. And so basically they're drawing the conclusion that in 2008, 65% of the income was for the debt, and then 35% was for Social Security, Medicare. Now they're making the claim that, the U.S. debt level is at 100% of its income. So where are the payments for Social Security, Medicare going to come from? Right? So where will the payments for Social Security and Medicare come from? When American retirees will be looking for their rightly earned payouts over the next 5 years, all hell will break loose. Can you imagine what will happen when the market collapses and Trump is out of office? Can you imagine what would happen when the socialist government begins to expand welfare programs with every cent it has on the books? Can you imagine when the socialist government says they will need your money to help spread the wealth equally? Right? These are all their worst fears. Month after month, Social Security payouts will decrease until you can no longer feed yourself because of vastly inflated food prices. In fact, as we speak, and so now it's just like talking about inflation, right? And then saying, hey, well, that's how it started in Venezuela, right? They're saying major food companies like Hershey, Nestle, Coca-Cola, are hiking prices. And then they're saying, but hey, it's not just higher food prices you need to watch to see cracks in the economy. Real estate in the States is down by as much as 10%, right? And then 50% of experts expect the next recession to begin by 2020. And then a lot of people are just saying like, yeah, basically if the cost of living increases and interest rates keep increasing, there's going to be a recession. But the coming recession isn't the only thing that will take down Trump. There's something else that ensures socialist politicians will get elected to office, anointed as the country's new messiahs ASAP. Millennials. That's so funny. They're a dangerous group of young Americans who seem clueless and don't have the faintest idea what the first 5 amendments are, and who spend needless days on Facebook and Instagram, yet want free healthcare, free college, free housing, free guaranteed income, free everything. And you can bet millennials will get all the free stuff they want. Because in the 2020 presidential election, millennials will call the shot, and you and I know they will never vote for Trump. That's so funny. So again, they're literally pointing out, hey, here's another reason for why Trump won't get elected, right? Because they're just showing more proof for why Trump will be taken out by the stock market crash as well, right? Yeah, they really hate millennials. This is so funny. So basically, over the last 40 years, baby boomers were the largest group for voting. And then basically, boomers by the next presidential election will be a smaller voting group than millennials, and so they'll take over. In a nutshell, Donald Trump will be your last president. By that I mean he'll be the last culturally American president for the remainder of your lifetime. Big claim. Because America is about to witness a 40-year millennial voting rule that will keep the Democrats and socialism in America for a very, very long time, beginning as early as this year. So again, they're super hardcore pointing the blame at millennials. Because millennials, this is so funny. It will be an unprecedented and disastrous time for America, a period you'll be forced to live in because millennials are a generation that aren't used to being responsible, and now they're about to inherit the United States. Ooh, for any like grandparents or parents like feeling like their kids are irresponsible or like, whiny and stuff, this will really hit home. Again, this is really talking about the like you can dislike how this is being phrased, especially if you are a millennial. I'm Generation Z. I'm just on the cusp. But this is how these boomers think in their heads, so they're preaching to the choir. They're as anti-Trump and anti-American as you can get. If this country was a socialist nation, so this is just like chest beating for patriotism. If this country was a socialist nation, from the signing of our Constitution, we wouldn't exist. But these days, socialism is chic and hip. Okay? So once Trump is gone, here are some socialist policies your retirement money is expected to pay for. Oh, that's good. Man, that's a good line. Here's what the socialist government plans to do with your money by next year. Okay. So, universal basic income. Okay. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. And it's going to cost taxpayers $3.8 trillion a year. Number 2, free for all health care. Number 3, free college for all. The largest takeover of private wealth in human history. So this is, what is this? Basically saying like the government is allowed to tell companies how they should be, you know, what is this? Count your money. Okay. I'll read this out to you. Have you heard of the proposed Accountable Capitalism Act? Here's the long and short of it. It's a plan that's been called the federal takeover of the U.S. economy, and it gives the federal government the right to dictate how U.S. companies should manage their money and how to distribute profits too. Just imagine businesses that traditionally pay dividends to retirees like Coca-Cola, Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, and retirement-friendly assets like REITs and employee stock repurchase plans, including 401k plans, IRAs, and other retirement accounts, all subject to a socialist government's meddling. So basically, the government's going to say like, hey, like, I don't know, you can't pay out retirees anymore, right? And then they're saying that this thing is Elizabeth Warren's baby. So they're basically showing the 4 different things that these retirees are going to have to pay for, right? Add it all up, and socialist policies will cost us $40 trillion. And then they're really like expanding how big that is, which is, hey, that's more than the GDP of China, Russia, Germany, Canada, France, Brazil, and Japan combined. So how are they planning to fund these programs? More debt, more taxes, cutting military funding, abolishing the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department, and stealing from Social Security and Medicare. Prepare for higher taxes on working class Americans, right? So as you can start to see, this is getting like a bit repetitive, but they're saying the same thing in different ways, right? Now they're claiming your assets will be confiscated. And then they're talking about like a musician that basically had his assets taken from him. Another one is greedy lawsuits. Here we go. So what can you do to protect yourself and possibly even grow your wealth through this crisis, right? So we've painted this really, really bleak picture, of all these things going wrong, universal basic income and higher taxes and assets being confiscated and greedy lawsuits. So how do you protect your wealth, right? So this is where I think we're going to start getting, into the pitch, right? So we're constantly working on the very best market insights and asset protection practices to our followers. We've now outlined several simple steps you can take right now to protect yourself and your family. So first off, make sure there's a safe location. So this is like the typical, make sure there's a safe location, food, water, medication, important documents in sealed bag. Right? So that's their advice. That's step 1. Step 2 is to grow your wealth to sustain your survival over the long haul. It's important to get some exposure to some of the most valuable assets on Earth, especially during a crisis. Modern economies can't run without huge amounts of oil, copper, coal, platinum, uranium, etc. These natural resources are so important, they're often a matter of national security. And then, Doug's Reader is getting like up to 4,300% returns from the assets. Right. So these obviously carry risk. Nothing's guaranteed, but you're looking to, a chance to stash some money away for rainy days. The next thing you'll need is a perpetual income stream. That means setting yourself up to collect predictable income from specific businesses according to law, but not just any businesses. There are a handful of businesses that actually increase payouts during a recession or crisis. So what they're doing here is they're saying, hey, one's to grow your wealth, the other one is for predictable income stream, right? And this making it more powerful and more like, again, tangibility and specificity are two of the most important parts of sales letters. So by saying that there's businesses that increase payouts during a recession, it's super powerful, super powerful. Like, who doesn't want that, right? You'll also need to protect the purchasing power of your money from currency devaluation, which would mean specific assurance with gold and silver. And then they're talking about how, gold went up. And then, hey, so, me and Doug wrote a survival blueprints for concerned Americans. It's called Casey Research's Survival Handbook, Sidestep and Profit from America's Socialist Financial Crisis. And I want to send you a copy. And then here, there's just a bunch of bullets. How to open a foreign investment account that gives you exposure to, assets abroad, which is important, because if the American economy is crashing, then you want, to make sure you're not in the American stock market. The easiest and legal way to open a foreign bank account that protects your wealth from confiscation and out-of-control government hacks. You'll be shocked to know which specific foreign banks to avoid, which ones to use, how to buy and store gold, a specific U.S. account loophole that can be used to store investments away from prying eyes in case the government makes a grab for retirement savings, how to participate in healthy overseas markets without leaving your home, and so much more. Right, so basically how to do, offshore investing. So basically this will give you a clear path to long-term survival, but you're also going to need, the perpetual income, right? So here's how we do that. So we've identified a safe way for you to quietly collect regular payments of $500 to $1,500 or more, depending on the size of your position in the market, right? And then, this source even increases payouts by 20% during the 2008 to 2009 recession. So they're really, really hammering home on the historical data and saying, hey, this pays out even better during a recession, right? And they're being very, very specific, and they're teasing, but they're not telling you what it is, right? So when the market turns south, you'll have a steady stream of income coming in. So there's two of the best payout streams you can tap into, and there's the second report called the perpetual income streams. Cool. And then there's another one, I guess a book called Crisis Investing. Let's see here. And then there's a story of how, he got triple-digit gains from a trip. Again, just talking up the importance of the report that he's going to give you. Oh, I see. Okay, so basically, so here they're explaining how amazing the Casey report is. They're saying, hey, Doug Casey did this really, really cool thing. He got triple-digit gains from one trip, and then basically, so those two handbooks I mentioned, or the reports. One was the what was it? The the survival handbook, which was like how to do offshore investing, and the number two is the perpetual income report, right? And hey, you get these two reports for free when you take a 60-day trial to the Casey report. And here I actually would like to add another report to your survival kit. It's the hey, but wait, there's more, right? Mount your defense and profit at the same time. Okay. You need to get defensive right now because we're also forecasting another financial storm that will wipe out millions of pension plans across the country, right? And so now there's a third survival guide called the Decisive Profits from the Collapse of Bonds. Okay. There's a simple and convenient way to do this in 10 minutes with a click of a mouse, right? So get the free report to find out how, right? So this is like, hey, when everything goes to hell, this is how you make money, right? So they tie in a bow here. They say, you may have noticed by now that one report complements the other. That's by design. After your assets and savings are protected from prying eyes during the coming financial turmoil, you'll need a steady income stream to secure your financial peace of mind. Plus, you need to get defensive when everything goes to hell. And then you get these, the survival kit of these 3 reports, free of charge when you try a subscription for the next 60 days. And then now it's basically just selling you on why the case report is so important. You have to constantly be assessing, situation with markets. We monitor the market all for you, do on your behalf. Should there be a move you have to make before the monthly issue comes out, you get a quick email alert. And they're basically just selling what the report with Doug Casey is. And then here's some testimonials. Hey, I made a lot of money, $5,800. I turned $25K into 1.5 mil. Now you're probably thinking it's expensive, to join the Casey report, right? After, you're able to make so much money with this and it's so helpful and valuable. And then price anchoring, you won't pay anywhere near $5,000 for the Casey report. That would be against our mission of showing as many people as possible how we can gain financial freedom and protect their savings, especially when they need it the most. Oh, and then before we reveal the price, here's the 4th guide I want to send you. All right. Okay, so now gold, basically, let's see what this is. Cool, so basically here's my gold secret to getting 500% returns. Let's see. And then, again, it's yours free when you sign up to the report as a free trial, or as a trial. You get 12 issues, members only portfolio, buy and sell alerts, email alerts, full survival suite. So you basically you get the Casey report and then 4 bonus reports, right? And then the yearly membership is only $199, not $5,000, not $1,000, not $500. And then, hey, actually, there's this really, really steep discount. You only pay $49, which is a 60-day trial. Oh, wait. Oh, I see. So call customer service so basically you have 60 days to get a refund if you don't like it. But for $49 for the full year, right? So they've done a really, really good price anchoring of $5K to $10K to $500 to $200 down to $49. Yeah. And so at the end here, which is super important, at the end of the sales letter, it says, simply click below to access your survival reports right now to prosper and stay alive in this new socialist America. So what's really, really crucial about that is they're tying the end of, in their CTA back to their original hook or angle, which is so, so important. A lot of people don't do that, where they, they'll be like, Soviet America, and then the CTA will be like, hey, click here to protect your family. But it's not mentioning the really, really big, angle that they came in with and for, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing that. And then the PS here is just twisting the knife. Just the other day, Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren was asked about her new tax plan of the wealthy. She said with a straight face, if you're successful, part of the deal is you pay back. That's clear confiscation in disguise. A socialist government is coming in this country, folks. You must act quickly to protect your wealth. Take a look at your free reports for help. You have nothing to lose. And then, click here to claim your free reports. So that is it, my friends. That is Soviet America, probably one of my favorite sales letters of all time. Hope you enjoyed. If you have questions, if you have comments, if there's other sales letters you want to see me break down, honestly, I put this together because I thought it'd be a lot of fun. Let me know, and I hope you have a good day.